Long seen as the Camarilla's loyal lapdog, Theo's recent defection to the Anarch movement triggered shockwaves still felt throughout Camarilla domains. It was Theo Bell who served at the whims of the Ventru Hardestat and Jan Peterzoon for years, even begrudgingly taking up arms for the Lasombra Marcus Vitel in recent years. It was also Theo Bell who fired the first shot at the Convention of Prague, ultimately causing Hardestat's and Peterzoon's deaths. Kindred gossip these nights positions Theo Bell as an unwilling messiah among the Anarchs. He just got sick of bending over for the Blue Bloods and snapped. His actions compelled hundreds of Brujah to follow suit, taking out the princes who long lorded over them and forming Anarch bastions alongside the Gangrel. Despite his notoriety, Theo still acts as liaison between high-status Camarilla and Anarchs, for the sole reason that he brooks no shit at meetings. He short-circuits Sabbat ambushes, quells any Anarch riots, and shuts down Camarilla extortion and coercion. As a mediator, Theo's judgment cannot be faulted. Greetings, Kindred. Tonight, we are reviewing the lore sheet for Theo Bell for the second time. For quality reasons and for clarity reasons. This lore sheet holds some very interesting connections to the once Archon of the Camarilla. Probably one of the most famous Archons in the Camarilla. And the fact that he has, in 5th edition, turned Anarch was not that shocking to me when it happened, when it was announced, I guess, because that's how the Gehenna novel played out. Almost shot for shot, pardon the pun, except for circumstances on why and where. In the Clan novels, specifically the Gehenna novel, which takes place after the Clan novels, Theo Bell used a shotgun to take off Hardestat's leadership, we'll put it that way, in New Mexico, at a motel. In 5th edition, it was in Prague at a convention where they were just going about Camarilla business. And I've always gotten a little... It does bring back a lot of changes between like old editions and 5th edition. They were trying really hard to just go ahead and push the Brujah out of the Camarilla, in my opinion. And I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing. You can, by all means, still have Brujah in the Camarilla. But the majority of them are Anarchs, and that's kind of how it really has always been. If the majority of the Brujah are not Anarchs, I can say that the majority of Anarchs are Brujah. And the same thing kind of happened with Rollover with the events of 1999 and Table Rock concerning Clan Gangrel leaving the Camarilla in a mass exodus and then finding a home in the Anarchs. That's really what this all surrounds about, is the stabilizing of the Anarchs. And I think that a good reason to mention the fact that all of these barons are acting more like princes in the 5th edition, just princes that don't have backing from the Camarilla. I think that might have a lot to do with the fact that Theo Bell, who has been in the Camarilla, who has participated in Camarilla events and stuck up for the Camarilla for as long as he has, is now part of the Anarchs. Maybe it's just them feeling like they need to try harder. I'm not really sure. But with that, let's go ahead and take a look at what this lore sheet has for those who choose to take it. Rebel Cell. You command a pack of rebellious mortals and fuel their fire with something that keeps them fighting. Perhaps you feed them vitae, or maybe you embody their ideals. Either way, these rebels, a 3-dot ally group equivalent, perform a single dangerous task for you without your presence before disbanding until the next story. So you have a 3-dot ally group who will go in, cause problems without your involvement of direct influence. You tell them what to do, they go and do it, but you don't have to be there. I think this could really cause some fun confusion in a game, especially if they can get in and get out without being caught at all. If you can have an event maybe at an Elysium happening over here, but the rebel cell is attacking some Ventrus holdings on the other side of town or something like that. And I'm just using the example of the Brujah and the Ventru constantly fighting as just a stereotypical thing that could very well occur. That is very useful, obviously, having a small gang of individuals, mortals, who could very well be ghouled to help do this. This really much is the Vampire the Masquerade and equivalent of Eat the Rich, you know. The idea that these people are so riled up, and with the way that the world is right now, I mean, it's not that hard to believe that kind of thing could happen. But the Brujah have always been able to direct the humans in the way they see fit. Not that this is Brujah specific. It's not. This just throws in your connections with the idea of who Theo Bell is and what character you're trying to portray. True Anarch. You were an Anarch before Theo Bell led an army of Camarilla Brujah into the Anarch movement, and you resent these tag-alongs, joining the Anarchs just as they grow popular. You have records, names, places, and dates about who the rebels were and are, fed to you by the man, or gathered personally. Either way, you get 2 automatic successes on any investigation test concerning vampires who defected to the Anarch movement. I like the fact that everything in this lore sheet isn't all, hey, we're Anarchs, let's both blow stuff up. You know, this has a lot to do with the idea of the story and what you could do with it. Playing an Anarch character set during the time of the Convention of Prague, where suddenly all of these kindred from the Camarilla have decided to come pouring in. One of the first things that you're going to do as a kindred is suspect. It's a game of paranoia and political intrigue. You're going to suspect. And this might actually allow you to find any actual spies. How many kindred could actually have joined the Anarchs due to the fact that they were trying to figure out the Anarchs? They're trying to understand things a little bit better and be able to give more in-depth information to the Ivory Tower about the Anarch movement. That's really where this lies, is being able to ferret out those potential traitors. I like that. I like the fact that it's not just, oh, we're here to break stuff, because the Anarch movement really does have that reputation. I personally, as a storyteller, I don't like the Anarchs. I do not like the Anarchs, which is funny because I'm probably well known at this point for running Anarch games. I just don't see an end goal to the Anarchs. But this right here gives you a little bit more of a story of political intrigue and a story other than, oh, we're going to go fight the Camarilla one more time. It's let's find the demons on the inside. And I I very much appreciate that. Contact information. Whether by dead drop, messenger, or arcane means, you can get word to Theo. Whether he responds or even listens depends on the message and your earlier interactions. But if he likes what you have to say, he might be able to move mountains. The precise game effects of a message to Theo are up to the storyteller. I think one of the most interesting things about this lore sheet is the lack of mechanical action, the chaos, the anarchy, if you will, that goes with it. Both true Anarch and contact information are something that's more just like, what is your storyteller wanting to throw at you? I can definitely see how this would be worth it, and how interactions with a character like Theo Bell could very much cause an upheaval in the status quo, in the way that the Camarilla is acting, in the way that the Anarchs are acting. This is very much something that is story driven, and without the define, like, oh, count Theo Bell as like a Mala, or you have allies or a retainer or something like that. This really does it's something that you should work with your storyteller to try to figure out what the past interactions between your character and Theo Bell might be, if you've had any. I mean, there's plenty of opportunity in games for people to slip a phone number or a note to someone else, and that's where this kind of thing can come in. World building more than sheet building. Bell's Circle. Theo trusts you, perhaps because of your earlier revolutionary actions or because you manipulated your way into his good graces. Bell is equivalent to a 5-dot mala, but your association with him also has many drawbacks. Look at there's that mala thing that I was talking about. Having Theo Bell as a 5-point mala is definitely very interesting. He can teach you things. If you look back at earlier character sheets and read up on past experience that Theo has in the novels or even the comic books, you could definitely make use of that 5-point mala. Especially, you're only paying 4 points for a 5-point mala with as high as a reputation of Theo Bell. Now, with that reputation comes infamy. Theo Bell's not just the famed Archon, he is an infamous Camarilla betrayer. And there's a very good chance that if someone found out that you were friends with Theo Bell, that they could use that against you. That they could use you to hunt Theo Bell himself. You could very well be the cause of the downfall of Theo Bell. So is contacting this mala that important? I do like the fact that, again, as much as there are some mechanics involved in this, 5 points in mala is not something to just ignore. But it does talk about also how there are drawbacks, but there's no details on that. This is all going to be about how you can weave the story in and out with the storyteller themselves. Storytellers, it's hard to try to keep up with all of the lore sheets, which is why there's a limit to how many people should actually have. It's hard to keep up with that kind of thing, but running a storyline where you're interweaving all of these different things can be challenging, but very fulfilling. I myself love seeing what my players are interested in and how they want to interact in the game involving these lore sheets. Sect Neutrality. Following Theo Bell's lead, you have a small contingent of a few Brujah loyal to your vision, and you can influence them in any direction. The Camarilla. the Anarchs, or even to form a smaller subsect, neutral amidst the jihad. You may resent their existence, or take pride in your following. Not mindless disciples, these kindred keep track of favors granted, but until they rebel against you, you have 5 dots to spend among contacts, haven, safe houses, mala, and retainers. This is interesting because not only are we looking at just another gang, this isn't just another thing like Rebel Cell was with level 1. These are kindred who look up to you, who want you to succeed, but also have a mind of their own, do not want to be taken advantage of. And I think that it's very interesting that the idea of 5 dots to spend between contacts, haven for safe houses, mala, which means you receive advice and training from others, and retainers. This gives you a wide variety to create a subsect, which is something that seems to be happening in the V5 world. We are starting to see groups like the Digital Collective, or the Chimera group, or the Free Spirits. And I know a lot of you out there who are listening to this don't know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to this. This was something that I was introduced to when I started to attend events. When I found out that the live action groups are starting to introduce other small subsects, factions, that interact in the world of darkness, intertwining between the Anarchs and the Camarilla. The neonates are getting fed up with the way that the elders have always run things, and there's not enough elders left behind to keep that control anymore. You have a handful of ancilli sitting on the top, basically being the teenage babysitter saying, it's time for you guys to go to bed, or I'm going to tell mom, but mom ain't coming back no more. So now it's time for them to rise up. This gives you the opportunity to create your own little subsect. It is a level on a lore sheet, and I say level very loosely when it comes to lore sheets because you can buy these in whatever order you want. But it is a level on a lore sheet like this that makes me think that it should be a 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive kind of thing. Because starting a game with this kind of thing could very well lead to a lot of confusion. But it also could be where your story is meant to start. So maybe I'm just speaking out of my ass when I say that. The idea of being able to come in and having those 5 points that represent the fact that you have a small gang that is growing in number and starting to produce results that could very well overthrow the Camarilla or the Anarchs and create its own societal branch that kindred are going to be able to follow possibly better than the other two. This isn't the Camarilla, this isn't the Anarchs, this isn't the Sabbat, this isn't a standard cult like the Church of Cain or the Ministry or anything like that. This is something that can build up and become something better than what the examples of kindred enlightenment have been. I think that's pretty interesting. And having that in a game could very well lead to some pretty promising storylines. Going through the Theo Bell lore sheet has opened up my eyes on a few different things. First off, I have a lot more understanding than I did when I first started this channel when it comes to the way things are interacting. I like to run my games in a way where the world is constantly moving around them. And this lore sheet, Theo Bell, it's not a Brujah specific. It's not an Anarch specific. This is a open to all groups lore sheet because Theo Bell is not someone who is the progenitor of a bloodline or anything like that. He is the example of where kindred society could be going. Lifting itself out from underneath the boot of the elders that are not around anymore, thanks to the beckoning or hiding or torpor or whatever your story wants to go with. Theo Bell is the example of standing on your own 2 feet and saying no. And I kind of wish there was more of that in my game. When I stop and think about it, like I have set up this Anarch game where the Camarilla is a pain in the ass, but you have to deal with the Anarchs more than anything, and the Anarchs can be just as bad. I want to hear from you guys. This isn't just a ploy for comments. I want to know what you guys think about the predicament of Theo Bell, where he stands right now, what he is doing, how that affects the world of darkness, both the Anarchs and the Camarilla, the Brujah in general. Where do you guys sit on the fence of Theo Bell and the actions he has taken to free himself from under the boot of Hardestat? Was this something good? Was this something bad? Is this something that the world of darkness is going to come to regret over time? I am Voivode Mekhet, and this is our world of darkness, and we are having a fun time rehashing some of the older videos that I have made that just didn't have the best of quality. These videos are going in the core book playlist because I want people to be able to find what they need to find when it comes to these stories. So, with that being said, I hope you all have a good evening, and I look forward to hearing from you all. Please share this video if you think it might help someone, and drop a like if you yourself enjoyed it. I will see you in the next video. Good evening.